Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I will be doing a soul share where I will be talking and sharing my thoughts on this notion of giving ourselves permission to do things imperfectly. And so I feel inspired to share on this topic today because this mindset that I've adopted, which is giving myself permission to do things imperfectly, has really helped me to break down barriers which would be otherwise very limiting in terms of what I put out there in the world, and is currently, has helped me actually to do something very, very exciting, which I will be sharing at the end of this video. And so I'll get to that at the end, but in the meantime, I really want to share with you my thoughts on this topic, and also maybe give you some tips as to the ways that maybe you can start giving yourself that permission to, because in my own experience, when we put that pressure on ourselves to do things perfectly, a lot of the times we don't do those things that we want to, or we wait a really, really long time. So obviously I'm sharing from my own experience, and perhaps it's different for you, but I have often been paralyzed by this fear of doing things badly or poorly or imperfectly, according to, the standards of everyone else around me, and maybe what society would expect for things to look like, or dictate for things to look like. And it's been a real process of developing this compassion for myself, and also adopting a beginner's mindset and being prepared to make mistakes and look foolish. And sometimes our egoic mind tricks us into thinking that we need to do things perfectly in order to get started. But the truth of the matter is that anyone who does anything started from somewhere. Any person who's succeeded began somewhere and began as a beginner. And sometimes we kind of lose that perspective because we're always seeing the end result, or somebody's success as the end result, and we don't actually see the journey. But when we remember that everyone starts somewhere, and when they do, of course, there are so many mistakes that are made, that's part of the learning process. Well, then, okay, we can take a step back and say, I don't need to be so hard on myself. And I don't need to put so much pressure on myself to succeed, or to do things right. Because, as I said, in my own perspective, that fear of making mistakes has often held me back from actually attempting to do that thing that I wanted to do. And so I would say that one of the things that really helped me to break out of that cycle was to start doing things a little bit at a time, in small doses, that would nourish that thing that I wanted to do, in a way that was manageable, but in a way that was also requiring me to step out of my comfort zone. And so I'll give you a concrete example. Not too long ago, I did a 5-week mantra journey where I accompanied a small group of people for 5 Sundays in a row. We got together for half an hour in the morning, and I would guide a mantra chanting session. And of course, it was scary for me when I first got started, because I didn't know if people would like it. I didn't know if people would show up. Would people lose interest? There were so many things that were going on in my mind that, was telling me a certain story about how things could potentially go wrong. And at the same time, it was just exciting enough for me to really feel like, yes, I needed to do this. And how I got to that idea actually started from this really crazy one, which was that I wanted to start a kirtan band. And if you don't know what a kirtan band is, kirtan is like, a singing celebration. But anyway, I wanted to, create a band. I mean, in the middle of what the circumstances are right now, this would be impossible. And also, I mean, there are parts of me that, still feel quite insecure about that, but I still have that crazy dream of, coming together with a group and offering a singing celebration where we chant mantras and we dance and we do all of that for an hour long. But, this idea is way too wild, way too big for me to actually even understand how to get there. That I was just like, okay, how can I look at that and then dial it back to a place where I can actually do something in that direction, but that is manageable. And so that's actually where the mantra journey idea came about. And it was such a positive experience, because had I not done that, I wouldn't have gained all the knowledge and all of that experience that I've gained from actually stepping into that role of being a facilitator for that, 30 minutes at a time, and all the preparation that went into the sessions and then afterwards, and how I led things. Those were all pieces of information that I had not known yet or acquired, because I had not lived it just yet, And so I think that can maybe be a really concrete example for you if you're wondering what's that thing that you'd like to take a step towards in a way that is manageable for you. So think about maybe that big, if you have a bigger vision or a bigger dream that feels scary but exciting. And as soon as you get into that place of overwhelm, then that's when you dial it back and think, okay, what's a small thing that I can do that will help me to set in motion this path, and in a way that I can continue to grow comfortably. So that's really what my invitation is for you today, is to start considering, what is it that you want to call into your life? What is it that you want to create? And give yourself permission to do that from a beginner's mindset, from this space of, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm here to learn, and give yourself permission to have fun while doing so. I think that's, one of the key points too, because when we do that, then we don't take ourselves so seriously. And I think one of the things that maybe challenge us is that we can maybe have that imposter syndrome that comes in and says like, oh, who am I to do this, or to want to offer this, or whatever. And I would just say to that you don't need to come from a space of pretension. You don't need to pretend that you know it all. In fact, I would encourage you to be completely honest and vulnerable and authentic, and say that if you are not the expert, then just say, I'm also a beginner, I'm also learning. And you can say that to yourself, you can say that to those who are around you, who are supporting you, and that kind of helps to break down any pressure, because the expectations are not as high. The expectations are maybe more appropriate for what it is that you're actually able to deliver. And I honestly believe that being authentic, being real, is the most valuable thing that we can offer to those around us and to ourselves, because we're no longer wearing that mask of pretending, and we can foster even more authentic connections and real connections with people because it comes from this space of integrity. And I just wanted to add that, as we're journeying on this path of giving ourselves permission to do things imperfectly, we're also giving ourselves permission to change our minds. In my own experience, it's only in the doing that I really know and get a sense of whether or not something is right for me or not. And up until that point, it's just a projection of my mind. But it's in the doing that I really know. But there's always that possibility that when I meet that thing, I might not like it anymore, or I might decide that it's not right for me, or that I'm not right for it, whatever. And that remains a possibility. And I think we just need to be prepared to accept that it can be a potential, It's not about saying like, oh, I'm going to walk this path and it's going to go exactly the way that I want it. No, it's actually an open invitation to really meet what's there and acknowledging that it can go in so many different ways. And, that acknowledgement is really a surrendering to doing things in a way that maybe is not so linear and not so predictable. But this, for me, is where the magic happens. This is where we start to dance with life. And it starts to get super interesting because we're always walking towards that thing that we want and meeting life halfway or meeting spirit halfway, getting feedback and then knowing, okay, do I want to keep going forward, or do I want to take a step back? Do I want to pause? Do I want to shift? All of this is happening, but when we give ourselves permission to do things imperfectly, we can actually be on the path, and not just stay stuck in this space of being too intimidated or fearful or paralyzed, and really just start to honor the call that is always coming to us and urging us to move forward. So I invite you to just start tuning in and leaning into what that might be, what it is that you want to cultivate, and how can you adopt this mindset and this heart space of seeing yourself with compassion and giving yourself permission to learn, to be a beginner. And in that way, life is so exciting because we don't know it all. Knowing it all, again, comes with it so much pressure, and remove some of the mystery that life has to offer. So that's my invitation for you today, and I really hope that this video inspires you. If it does, I'd love to know what is something that you might start leaning into, or what's something that you'd like to work towards in a way that feels good for you, in a way that feels right for you. So if you feel called to share, please do so in the comments. It would be an absolute pleasure to read and share this experience with you. And for the announcement that I wanted to share, the reason why this beginner mindset is so important for me at this time, and this giving myself permission to do things imperfectly, is because this past week I've really been working on recording and releasing my very, very first single, a mantra single. And it's been such a humbling process because, I had to work through my own limiting beliefs and my own personal resistances as to what I thought was possible and as to what I thought I was capable of. And that's part of the process, this invitation of how can I transcend all these things that I believe to be true and just open up to other possibilities. And so I'm sharing this with you actually because I hope that it inspires you. in some way, because had I known a few years ago that I would be today preparing a single, my very first single to be released, I just would have never imagined it to be possible. You know, I was so uncomfortable sharing my voice to anyone around me. I never did it, you know, I just kept it to myself. And now I'm preparing to share my voice with the rest of the world in a way that just seems so out of reach. And it is possible. It really is, to, you know, push beyond our own personal boundaries and our own limitations and our edge of what we believe ourselves to be capable of. But of course, we have to be willing to show up in a way where we're prepared to make mistakes. It is truly part of the process. But all that to say that I am so excited to be sharing with you this new single. It will be hopefully dropping on the 31st of March, which is my birthday. And it's a symbolic gesture for others and for myself, a gift that I'm offering, one of empowerment and of self-expression and just this transcendence of, you know, what we think to be possible, and honoring the expression that wishes to come through. So mark your calendars, and I am so excited to share this piece of music with you. And until then, well, there will be other beautiful things coming up on this channel. So there will be more videos with sacred sound, of course. So stay tuned. And in between all of that, I would really love to know if this video has inspired you in some way. And of course, do share any small steps that you wish to be taking, or that you intend on taking in the direction of what it is that you truly want to call into your life. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of this community. It really touches my heart that you choose to follow me along, and that you too are seeking perhaps a path of integrity and of living your best life. So I send you so much love, and I say to you, namaste.